This video will be all about leveling, and as you can see right in here, you can get to level 15 if you follow the steps that I'm going to give you right here in this video. And then this is also going to be able to be done solo on expeditions. I'm actually going to have some advice for you to do so on solo and on a party as well with your two friends, if you have any friends. But ideally it's just going to be a guide on the castle and when should you be hitting the castle. The castle is going to be the only thing that is going to allow you right in here to reach all the way to level 15, and it's also able to do so while you're playing on solo expedition. However, on solo expedition is going to be 1 out of 3 times, and it's not always going to be the case, so you only have like a 33% chance of clearing this while you're playing in solo, and that is if you get the banished knights, because there's 3 types of enemies that you can have on the castles. You can have banished knights. If you have banished knights, my advice is that you actually separate everyone. As you can see me fighting right in here, I can fight 2 knights without any kind of issue depending on the level that you are on. But you can definitely fight them, and it's going to be easier for you to clear the castle if everyone knows what they're doing and they separate. If you do not feel comfortable and you came here on low level, because that's something that can be done as well, if you come in here in level 5, then my advice is to stick together. If you're 8 or 9, then you can just separate and do things on your own, provided that is if you have the banished knights. So in solo, that's the only time when you're going to be able to do the castle, if you find banished knights. And then we have the trolls, and the trolls are very annoying because there's always going to be trolls throwing things at you and preventing for you to fight. So there's a very specific strategy that you actually have to follow in here, and that is that you have to separate everyone. Every single one of you has to be separated. In one should be like ideally preventing from the rest of the trolls actually throwing pots at you. If you have enough DPS, then yes, by all means you can just one-shot the trolls that you have in front of you. But my advice, more often than not, as a general rule of thumb with my expedition with my friends, I usually like for everyone to separate so that the trolls are not going to be able to be shooting things at you. And then finally, one of the most important ones, and it's going to be like on the same level of utility than the banished knights, is going to be the Earth Tree Knights. So the Earth Tree Knights, it's also going to be one thing that you're only going to be able to do so on expedition. And the reason for that is very simple. If you're playing on solo, it's definitely doable on solo as well. The problem is that these knights are very annoying and they are going to consume too much of your time because they are designed as bosses and they have specific patterns that you have to follow for you to be able to fight them. So essentially on the first phase, and this is something that they do as well, they have 2 phases even though that they are regular basic enemies right in here in the castle without health bar. In the first phase, they're going to be using one or two swings with their sword, depending what they do, and then after that swing, you get 1 or 2 on your own. Then they're going to enter into a second phase where they're going to swing, and then they're going to use their tail to swing the tail after every single sword hit. So it's a dance of you having to wait for that opportunity of attack. So if you're playing solo, I do not advise for you to do this, guys, because it's just too annoying. Now if you're playing an expedition with your friends, then yes, by all means, because you can just basically stun lock the hell out of everything and it's just going to be amazing and you're going to clear these things really fast. One more thing that you need to have in mind about the castle is that if you find red eye enemies like the one that I'm showing you right in here, these guys actually drop items and buffs and weapons and such. So the ideal thing is just killing things in here, but just don't forget to loot them, because sometimes they could give you a very nice passive bonus that is going to be of the utmost use to you. Now, when should we be hitting the castle? Depending on whether I'm playing solo on expedition with my friends, or even with randoms, if they actually listen to what you're pointing at and they're actually following you. My advice is that you always take the lead if you know what you're doing, and start pointing things before they actually do something else. So when you're playing with your friends, ideally on the first night, if, and this is a huge if, The circle closes inside the castle, like as soon as the night starts shifting. That means on the second half of the first night, like on the second 7 minutes, if you see that the castle is going to be inside of the zone, that's the time when you should be hitting it. You should be level 5 at this time if you have been farming little camps around the place where you actually landed. So this is by all means, like I mentioned, what you're playing with your friends. And ideally, the first thing that you want to do is clear, do not kill the bosses. We'll talk about the layout of the castle in a little while, but kill everything around you so that you get up to level 12-ish or level 9 even, and then you can start killing the bosses. Now, if you're playing in solo, then my advice is that as soon as you end the second night and you start the first nights, that's when you immediately should be going to the castle. But remember that if you're playing solo, you're only going to be doing the castle if you have banished knights. Now let's talk about the layout and the actual walkthrough of the castle. The castle has 4 layers. The very first thing that you should always at all times be doing is go to the basement, because in the basement you're going to find a boss. The boss is going to give you about 50 to 60k runes, and then it's also going to give you access to the room where you actually have a talisman, and that is very valuable because it gives you 3 choices for a talisman, which is, like I said, very valuable. And then you're going to go into the second level, which is the courtyard of the castle. On the courtyard you're going to kill every single one of the enemies, with only one exception being the giants. If you have giants, then you're immediately going to go to the third level and kill the giants first before you actually do anything else, because the giants are going to be throwing bombs at you. But yeah, that's the third level. In the third level you have the battlements, and this is ideally where you're going to be farming the most. Do not go to the fourth level, which will talk in a little while. Do not go until everything is crystal clear in here, because remember that we came here for experience, and you can leave this place with about 300k experience without actually having to waste too much time running around the map. Like, this is a place where you have a huge amount of enemies condensed in one single location that are going to give you about 300k. So if you're playing with your friends, communicate this to them and kill this place clean. Once you have managed to clean the overall everything on the castle, you're going to go into the keep. The keep is going to have this stair that is going to lead you to the final level of the castle, which is going to be the rooftop of the keep. Here you're going to find another boss, and it's going to be one of the difficult ones. So you should be at the very least level 9 before attempting this boss. And also, one thing that you need to have in mind is that discuss with your friends if you actually want to go outside the castle and level up before actually coming inside here. Because, well, as you see me doing right in here, I had a whole bunch of runes with me and I just didn't care. I just YOLO'd it. But there's also a concession that you need to make depending on the boss that you're going to encounter in here. Like, for example, the Death Earth. Everyone hates this bastard, and for a good reason. You can see what happened in here, and then the also bad thing that happened in here is that I ran out of batteries. So this is this what you're seeing right here. This is what happened. I ran out of batteries when I was fighting this guy. So yeah, that's a bummer. At the end of the day, we did manage to defeat it, but I was stressed. I was quite stressed because I had nearly like 200k runes that I had from killing stuff. So yeah, if you don't feel comfortable fighting the birds, then my advice is that you actually don't. And we actually got a crappy RNG for bosses in here, because we had the bell-bearing hunter on the basement and then the bird on the rooftop of the keep. So yeah. Anyways, this is what you should be doing. This is the walkthrough of the castle. This is the layout of the castle. And yes, by all means, this can be done solo, and this can also should be done whenever you're playing with your friends. My advice is also that, like I mentioned, if you're playing with your friends on the second half of the first day, the reason for that being is that ideally you want to use the second day to you're leveled up, like you're already beefed up. If you do so, what I'm doing right in here, at the end of the first night with your friends, you're going to be around level 12 or 13 even, which is going to give you time to do the events. If you have the crater, do the crater. If you have the mountain, do the mountain. You have the Noctella city, do the city. You have the rotted forest, do the rotted forest. And yeah, so that's ideally how things should be going for you, so that you have an easier time fighting the Night Lords, because you're going to be all leveled up and beefed up and full of amazing, legendary and epic weapons. If you like the content, a like and never super appreciated. And also, you think you're a useful person, you're in the go, you're a beautiful, beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join Discord, have a beautiful day, goodbye.